Heard that.
You can sit up here.
Oh, are we recording, Janice?
Lots of trucks.
Just like my granddaughter. All right.
Hey, Jan, are we recording?
We are recording, Mayor.
All right, very good. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 5th, 2024 Township Committee meeting held at the Municipal Building at 7 o'clock or so p.m., 770 Coopertown Road here in Delanco. Can we have a roll call, please, Janice?
Mrs. Patrick? Here. Mr. Olet?
Here.
Ms. Seuss? Here. Mr. Templeton?
Here.
Mr. Bartlett?
Here. Also present, Mr. Schwab, our Township Administrator, Mr. Fox, our Township Engineer, Mr. Heinhold, our Township Solicitor, Mrs. Lohr, our Municipal Clerk, Mrs. Russell, our Deputy Municipal Clerk, Mr. Fenimore, Superintendent of Public Works, Chief Tilger, the Police Chief, and his entourage, and we have Scott Taylor here, our planner. Could everyone please rise for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Janice, can I have the sunshine statement, please?
Please be advised that proper notice of this meeting has been given in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act in the following manner. Written notice has been mailed to the Burlington County Times and Courier Post and published in the January 4th, 2024 editions. Written notice has been posted on the official bulletin board of the Township of Delanco at least 48 hours prior to the meeting.
Thank you, Janice. Before we begin, can I just ask for a moment of silence for Mr. Paul Dragos? He was a resident of town. He was involved with Dobbins Church. He was involved with our fire company. He had passed away about a week and a half ago. So just have a moment of silence. Thank you. All right. First up on the agenda, the first annual Lawrence C. Stearns Officer of the Year Award. Chief.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Tonight's a very special evening for the police department and several people involved with it. I want to welcome everybody here. Tonight I'm honored to be presenting the inaugural Lawrence C. Stearns Officer of the Year. This is going back about 2 years. I had the idea that I wanted to honor the memory of Lieutenant Stearns and also come up with an Officer of the Year. We've never here at the Delanco Township Police Department have ever given an award for Officer of the Year. So it was fitting that both of you found at the same time we honor Lieutenant Stearns as well as the officer for his dedicated service for 2023. The award was named in recognition and memory of Lieutenant Lawrence C. Stearns. Lieutenant Stearns was a United States Marine who served our country and was injured in combat in Vietnam. However, after her service in the military, he chose to continue serving, this time in the capacity of a law enforcement officer here in Delanco Township. He began his career in 1974, and he served the community for 30 years before he retired in 2005. During his career, he was committed to the residents of this community, the officers he served with, and he's dedicated to the law enforcement profession. Besides being an officer here, he was a past president of the Burlington County Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 2. Anybody involved with that knows how much work he did for that organization. Lieutenant Stearns, when I got on, this is a personal story where in 2005 I transferred here to Beverly. As I got here, there was no restraints, there was a possibility of layoff. Lieutenant Stearns, knowing that that would have been me, he opted to retire. So he holds a real special place in my heart. I'm happy to have his family here, and also with his daughters, son-in-law, grandchildren. It's great to see. It doesn't happen enough, but when it does, it's really good. This year's recipient, he began his law enforcement career with the Delaware River Port Authority, where he served for approximately 3 years. In 2021, this officer joined our agency, and since then has tirelessly dedicated himself to this agency and his fellow employees. In 2023, the command staff and supervisors all communicated about who we would be putting in the Detective Bureau with the board that we had there. It was a pretty easy decision. This officer, he was selected to take that role on, and due to staffing issues, shortly thereafter being selected, he was told he was going to have to handle double duty, being that handling all investigations as well as working patrol shift in patrol officer capacity. Not once did he complain. He took on the responsibilities and he excelled. There's people who are fit to do a job, and this officer, he excels in everything because of the hard work that he puts into it. When it comes to investigations, not every officer is fit for that duty. This one is. And since he's been here, it's been rewarding to see him grow. This past year, this officer was instrumental in combating gun violence, narcotics distribution, property crime, as well as building bonds with community members and community projects here in Delanco Township. This officer spearheaded building multiple community-based relationships, and due to his efforts in Delanco Township, we now host the work in conjunction with the Delanco Sheriff's Department and Delanco County that hosts the Hope One Global Access Week, which offers critical support for persons and their families struggling with addiction and related issues. At this time, we ask Lieutenant Stern's wife, Phyllis, to step forward to help me present the officer this evening. For the aforementioned reasons, I would like to now congratulate Detective Adam Lippick for being selected as the first ever Lawrence C. Stern Officer of the Year. Detective Lippick. On today's date, February 5th, 2024, I'm honored to present you with this certificate as the Lieutenant Lawrence C. Stern's 2023 Officer of the Year. In recognition of your outstanding, never-ending service to the Delanco Township Police Department, we thank you. Medal of Officer of the Year, which, like I said, this is something that I'm proud to be able to present. And a little history on this: the decision-making process, it wasn't me alone. I involved the command staff, supervisors, and it tells you something when there's a unanimous decision. He was selected by everyone. So, congratulations. For those who are here just for the ceremony, you are able to leave before the township meeting begins.
Before you leave, we do have a proclamation from the Township Committee as well.
Yeah. And-
Adam,
Adam, should introduce your new officers while they're here, too. Introduce
Yeah,
the members of the
introduce your,
department we're
yeah,
here.
yeah,
Good
before,
idea,
when
too.
Matt's done,
Once
yeah.
this is done. Yes.
All right, so this is a proclamation honoring Detective Adam Lippick, recipient of the Lawrence C. Stern Officer of the Year Award. Whereas it is the desire of the Township of Delanco to recognize Detective Adam Lippick for his dedication and commitment to the Delanco Township Police Department, the residents of the Delanco community, and his profession as the recipient of the Lawrence C. Stern Officer of the Year Award. And whereas
his family also. Introduce.
Even though I was presented tonight for the outstanding job he did, every one of them deserves some acknowledgement. So starting left to right, I'm going to do start with Eric Hoffman.
We're going to shake everyone's hand and we're very lucky in Delanco, congratulations, to have such a great police force. She runs the show here. Thank you. We appreciate your service. We appreciate you keeping us safe.
Adam, do you want to introduce Adam's family?
I see we have a couple other officers that were once here in Delanco. I see George Sakalis and
Jesse DeSanto's back there.
Jesse, and I didn't see Jesse. Where'd
Hey, he's right behind us.
and Eric Rogers. Thanks for coming. We appreciate you.
And the detectives' families here as well.
Yes, thank you
Yeah.
for attending. As I said, it's been a pleasure.
Let's do Jesse.
You came on board, and I hope to meet you guys very soon. Kelly's wife, I met her, she's here with her child. Thank you for being in attendance.
She agrees. Before you go, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
You can go if you want. Or you can stay.
You're more than welcome to stay if you really would like to.
Do you want me to take the picture?
Take a little break.
Are you good?
We'll just give it a couple minutes while they exit.
Danielle's little girl's cute.
Yeah, she is sweet. She was good though.
Yeah, she was good. This was so nice that all of them came.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever seen them all here for something.
Should you go as the mayor to get a picture with them? No, the
Phil
whole
took
group,
a
they're all
picture.
taking a picture.
Phil took a picture. Phil always takes pictures.
You know, I meant with the,
Oh,
as the mayor.
yeah. Here it goes.
I don't know if Scott's presentation is going to be as interesting. I don't know if your presentation is going to be as interesting. How do you follow that up?
We'll give you a standing ovation.
That's okay.
We'll just let them get out.
It's
and
a
we'll
really nice
continue with
park.
It's not your legacy. It's your legacy, Scott.
Mr. McFadden, could you close that door back there? I don't know, can he legally do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Mrs. Laura says you can, so
So glad we brought him on board.
let it be said. As long as it's unlocked, I think we're
That's right,
good.
as long as it's unlocked.
All
But,
right.
I mean, that's okay, right, Doug?
Yeah, and after a few minutes, we can open it back up again.
Right,
but
right.
All right.
Not that Scott needs any quiet.
All right. I don't know how we top that, but Mr. Taylor is sure going to try with his presentation on the fiscal year 2024 Local Recreation Improvement Grant. The floor is yours, Scott.
Thank you. And I think we're going to talk about two things, just in talking to Phil and to Nina and Rich. One of the things that we'll do is we'll give a brief overview of the Vine Street Park /
Hey, Scott, let me just interrupt you. Why don't you grab the portable mic? Just pull it right off the stand.
Scott, could I ask you to move the easel over this way? Being we're broadcasting and we have a whole bunch of folks that may be out there watching.
Plus, and the people in the audience here as well.
I don't know, will the camera pick that up? Or?
That's okay.
Yeah,
It is what
that's
it
good.
is.
Yeah, it'll pick it
Yeah.
up.
Okay,
That's
good.
fine.
That's good. Probably still not on video.
thank you.
Okay.
There you go.
So we'll do two things. One, I'll go through a little bit of the park concept that we had created a few weeks ago. And then we'll talk for a few minutes about, there is a local recreation improvement grant that is due February 27th. So between now and your next meeting, which I believe is the 26th, the decision of what to be done for that will need to be discussed with rec. I know that one of the options that's being looked at is some playground equipment at FOD adjacent, which has been part of the master plan, actually dating back to 2004, which is when the very first concept plan was done for that,
Right.
which I know Kate was
Yeah.
actually here for that. Seems like just 19 years ago.
Yeah.
So just by way of reference, on the plan here, Burlington Ave is on the left-hand side, Vine Street is to the bottom of the plan. We know that the building that had been demolished by the county had been acquired, that has since been conveyed to the township. There is a small road widening and slight triangle easement to make sure that nothing large gets put back in that spot, which was, I believe, the reason for the county purchasing it in the first place. So we did have some meetings and site visits with Steve Lord and the Perlmutter, some discussions with the folks at REC to come up with a little bit of a concept plan for the property here. This really is sort of a unique thing that we were trying to do several things with this property. One is, let's try to create sort of a strong sense of place. This is the other anchor of sort of the downtown. You know, we have Gateway Park coming in, we have this at the intersection, and then it's a very vehicular dominated place. So the other thing we wanted to do was to try to slow people down from traffic calming and make it a safer, nicer place for pedestrians. So a couple of things that we looked at doing was coming in with a small sitting area that is set back, that sort of creates some definition, and having some open lawn that sort of faces toward Vine Street. That does a couple things. We were very judicious in trying to leave some of that open. It's a very compact section of town. This provides an opportunity if somebody wants to throw a frisbee, throw a football, throw down a blanket, do a picnic or anything, that can happen here. We know that for decades we've talked about continuing efforts to try to stimulate economic growth and reinvestment in the downtown. We know that we've got an ice cream store across the street here. Having some space that can serve as an anchor within the downtown for a food truck night or other small events to try to help bolster that viability can work well, so that this isn't just a park. It becomes this multifaceted, multi-generational spot. We're showing some picnic tables in the lawn area, and we're also showing a plaza space that has the potential for a pavilion over it. And then in terms of the streetscape, a lot of that was done, and it was, as all of you know, that a lot of that was done as an Eagle Scout project by Stephen Lord. A lot of that material was donated. It was done a long time ago. Some of that material is actually invasive, donated by some garden centers and other people. So we want to try to replant some of those things that we can that are doing well and provide some function, but also use some simpler palette materials that's easier to maintain, so it doesn't get away from the town. Coming along the streetscape, we were looking at doing some low fencing. It's about 24, maybe 30 inches high, as long as that's consistent with the site triangle easement. Those easements usually vary from 24 to 30 inches. That creates a little bit of visual separation and functional separation that if a car were to swerve or something, creates a little bit of safety. That actually comes and wraps around this entry walk that leads into the plaza and pavilion space. Along here, one of the items that was raised was the potential for an historic downtown club. So we're showing that along the central axis here, which actually lines up with the existing sycamore that is in good shape, and we intend to retain that. Sorry, John, I know it's big and I know it throws a lot of things and it's a bit of a mess.
Just bring your rake.
That'll be the last sycamore tree in Delanco.
Just bring your rake.
I will, I got one. So playing off of that geometry, going with the clock out front, and then also a dedication plaque and potentially a time capsule behind that. That was knowing that this is Centennial Park, and before the words could leave my mouth, Committeewoman Seuss at the rep meeting was like, what about calling it Centennial Park? And so I can't actually take formal credit for that. I think that name would be good. It really creates something sort of special about that. So being able to do some kind of time capsule for the Centennial would be an interesting element. Litter receptacles, bike racks, interpretive signs that talk about the history of the site, and even some of the pollinator habitat can be done through this area. We do have the brick sidewalks along Burlington Avenue. One of the other ideas was to really punctuate and define the space itself, would be to extend the brick sidewalk the frontage of the park property. That really sort of defines this area. Supplementing some of those plantings, doing some underplantings around the sycamore, things that will mass, things like bayberry, mountain laurel, and rhododendron that can be planted far enough apart, let them grow together as a mass, provide some habitat, but mainly it doesn't have to be mulched and weeded and pruned. Really try to create this as sort of a shady woodland garden. We'll also provide a nice buffer for the adjacent residents, but also for the folks who are actually in the park itself. Showing an extension of decorative streetlights down Vine Street again to sort of create this as a whole identifiable unit, create a unique sense of place. Bike racks, metal fence, showing picnic tables in a couple locations, and also kind of one nestled back or accessible picnic tables in that plaza space. As I said, if the downtown continues to grow, this is the spot where you could have food trucks once in the summer or twice in the summer, or you could have a small quartet or an inflatable movie screen and be able to do sort of small group of things here to bring some folks back into the downtown, because this is, it has an opportunity to be a nice little open space and sort of another core element and anchor of the downtown. All right, I think that is sort of the overview for this park concept. The other, as I mentioned, is Rec is working on some evaluating some playground equipment that can go out at FOD. The L rig, as it's affectionately called, is due February 27th. It does have a maximum grant amount of $100,000, so that does not lend itself to larger scale projects. It's really intended more for like a playground project and other rehabilitation, smaller projects as opposed to park development. So I would suspect that playground may be easier and candidate fits better. However, we would have the opportunity to phase part of this project. That's the direction that the town wanted to go. But I think either would be good candidates for that grant.
Scott, do you have a cost estimate on this particular park?
So, funny you should mention that. Very, very preliminarily. And I just sent them out a few minutes after 5 o'clock today. Preliminary estimates are just around $249,000 plus some contingency costs.
Okay.
And this is, again, this is me selecting some benches and litter receptacles or trash cans. These
So the other question I have is, can this grant be submitted as an alternative, like either this or that? You know how we have done, like alternate 1, 2, 3? Can it be done, or do we have to just pick like the playground or this? Because if this is only $100,000, it doesn't look like we would get the whole project, but we would get enough to get a good start on it.
So I think part of the issue is commingling that if you guys had 150,000 sitting in a pot, burning a hole in your budgetary pockets,
Right.
it may make some sense to do this.
Okay.
To try to put a $100,000 project out to bid to build a portion of this, and then the following year do the same thing. The design and contract administration costs,
Doesn't work.
it probably doesn't make sense. So I think it would make more sense to do a stronger application for the playground equipment at that amount. And then we're not sort of bidding against ourselves in the eyes of the folks in the state.
Okay, good. Understood, thank you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful design, Scott, that's for sure. Yeah, I definitely agree that it wouldn't make sense to do part, then bid it out again, do another part. And I'd like to see us just, finish one project, like the Field of Dreams, get the playground equipment in. If it's, part of the master plan that's been there, for 19, 20 years, like you were saying. And plus, you see the kids out there at the soccer games, they might be watching their siblings play or waiting for their siblings to be finished playing. They're always, running around, climbing on the soccer goals and things like that. It would be nice if they had something there to use, to play on while their siblings are playing soccer. And, that could be used throughout the whole season, from April all the way to October, November. So I think I would rather see the playground equipment there. But I think that's a beautiful design, though, absolutely.
Yeah, it is. It certainly, there may be another grant coming up that this would fit. Or if the county starts doing the municipal grants again at 250, this would be ideal. Yeah.
Fern or Mike, do you guys have any?
With the 100,000, that would cover all the playground equipment?
So that depends on how much and how large that structure wants to be. And Phil and I are planning to coordinate some of those decisions. That playground equipment, because the safety is such a critical element, that playground equipment is very, very expensive. A playground that is the size of this room with rubber surfacing can cost about $250,000 if you fill it. Now, this playground is really more of a support facility
Yeah, it's
for siblings and others, so it's not, it will be a little bit of a destination, but and we will say that at the grant applications, because it will be for some. So I think going smaller with that. Some of those design decisions are we going to use a wood fiber safety surfacing, which has a much lower initial cost. The rubber clay surfacing, which is very predictable, is about $20 a square foot, which is about the price of marble tile. It almost doubles the price of a playground. It's as much as the playground that's above it. So those are some of those decisions that we can sort of work through and make some of those decisions. And it may even be that play area gets designed in such a way that maybe a small phase 1 goes in now. It could have a small extension at some point in the future, but there's ways to do that. We will have to provide accessibility in accordance with the New Jersey Driver subcode. So there will have to be sidewalks and connections from the parking lot, from those walkways into that new playground.
So probably similar in size to the West Avenue playground, maybe.
Yeah, I would think like that seating area. I don't think it'd be any bigger than
Yeah.
that seating area
Right.
there, if I remember that plan.
Where was it proposed? Back behind where the new pump is?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's back
The new
there.
well?
Yeah, back in that area.
Okay.
Back there, yeah.
The original concept actually had it on the east side. The roads, the roads were all being realigned. That was when
Yeah,
Before
the
the,
earliest concepts were for the access road to come through the county property
Right.
to the Marine, because there was some acquisition discussion years ago. So we've shifted it in the subsequent concepts over to that sort of east-southeast side.
And that's where a lot of the kids end up playing whatever their tag or whatever, chasing their friends while their siblings are
Yeah.
playing right now, so that's,
That's good.
Who's
sounds like a
getting the
pretty good area.
pricing? Who's getting the pricing for the equipment?
I think rec is.
So Rec was going to do some initial selections. I told Phil, probably done this 200 times. Those reps are very good. If you say, we have X area and/or we have X amount of dollars total, we need something to do this, you can tailor some things a little bit to customize. Colors are an easy thing, but reinventing the wheel doesn't make a lot of sense. So getting some standardized things, and those manufacturers, some are available on state contract. The one, and we can get into some of those differences, but we'll probably be working with Rec because there will be excavation and construction and sidewalks and some other issues, and then some potential alternates, because one of the things we run into on some other projects, we have somebody doing the site prep and somebody else is doing the installation. The second something's off by an inch or two, there's a lot of finger pointing. So that's not always a good thing, especially when the safety and the safety servicing is at play.
Great. Thank you.
Like,
Yeah, I'm glad the conversation has shifted to the Field of Dreams and the playground that's been planned there. I guess the open space there was kind of to fit into the requirements of the state and the local recreation improvement grant as far as a recreation area, because the existing Vine Street Park is kind of a quiet place. You've got a walkway that's kind of in and behind some garden plantings and so forth, and so you're kind of insulated from the streets, noise and traffic and so forth. And in your initial description, you did mention the traffic on Burlington Avenue coming around the bend there, but then you said it's now planned or proposed as an open area that kids could throw a ball or a frisbee or things like that, and I just immediately had the ball frisbee bouncing out into the street. And that just seems to be cross purposes and maybe not the best thing to do.
Well, one of the things we did mention, so a couple things. I think all of our meetings and discussions of this and the programming happened before the L rate was even announced.
Right.
So this was, we have a space here. What can we do with this space to try to have it serve as many purposes as possible? Have it be multi-generational. Do I foresee kids playing a lot of games out here? No. But there is a lawn area here. Right now, a lot of kids play in the street. If there's an opportunity that some toddlers are playing in the lawn and we do have fencing and some plantings here to sort of stop that movement, that was what we did in response. Any bigger kids are going to go to they're going to go to one of the schools, they're going to go to FOD, they're going to do something else. So it was really intended toward extra sort of open play, smaller, to avoid those safety situations.
I think we had even talked about possibly putting a fence on the Vine Street side too, partially.
And we did. We actually turned the corner and wrapped it down this first 15 feet. We left this open kind of as flexibility, but that's something that fencing could extend further down if everyone thought there was a need for that. We kind of like the idea of, maybe twice a summer, maybe there is a food truck night. Maybe there's an opportunity that does something here that brings folks into the downtown and the road can be closed off, and then this becomes a little bit of space for in conjunction with any of your parades or something else.
The other thing, it's got a full south exposure, so your ice cream cone's going to go pretty quickly. I mean, you got to move it along.
No, your ice cream.
Yeah.
With us, it's gone
But
before the
really,
sun hits it,
I
right?
mean,
Yeah.
there's no,
Yeah, me either.
Don't hold it for very long.
You're good.
Yeah.
I like that.
but some shade would maybe be helpful
Yeah.
What are the ice cream longevity?
And we were showing some native, like some eastern redbud here to try to get a little shade in some corners. I will say the canopy of this sycamore is probably actually a little bit larger than what's shown here. It throws some massive shade.
Last question, the clock, is it self-winding or what's the story there? Because the clock up here,
Gotta hire
outside, has never been right. I mean, it's,
Yes, the new tech for all of the clocks have cells and they automatically adjust for daylight savings time, and it is much smarter than what they were. I actually was talking to the rep because I hadn't done one in probably 15 years, 20 years, and talking to him, he was like, no, it's all the lights are LED, it's not fluorescent tubes for the light behind, and much smarter. It will not track your heartbeat or your steps.
And even if it's broke, it's still right twice a day.
Exactly.
a sundial, stick to a sundial. Low maintenance, we're in low maintenance here.
And, thanks for bringing up that point about the footballs and the frisbees, Mike. That was kind of my first thought when I heard that as well, putting my emergency services hat on. Like, I don't want to see a kid run into the street with a football or a frisbee,
Right.
but that was a good explanation. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't see the fencing. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Taylor?
We want to talk about last year's grant and that project, just as an update on where we are.
Oh, that's the
Maybe-
basketball
The
court.
basketball court and the,
I would love to, however, Steve Lennon is handling
Steve
that
is,
with
yeah.
Harry.
Yeah.
So I would be tap dancing more than normal. I wore them. Yeah, so unfortunately I was not prepared to update you on that this evening.
Mike, I can give you a little bit as trying to coordinate the stuff. The estimate for the resurfacing significantly more than what the grant would cover. So that portion kind of froze. Harry and Steve came up with a different location for the walkway and moved things around a little bit, and we have that, but until we'll be discussing in budget whether or not you want to supplement, like he was talking about having an extra 150,000, whether you want to supplement the state grant for the surfacing because the state grant was not enough to cover it. We did the same thing with Field of Dreams well, although that case we had already planned to do the well, and we got the state grant. It's a good thing we did because that ended up costing more than what was estimated. And so we know that whatever we're talking about today, a year and a half later when you're doing things, it's not going to cost those numbers. So you have to be prepared. I would say you look at the grant as a supplement, not as 100%. We probably should have thought of that when we were talking about the the work at the basketball court. So we'll talk about that meeting.
Yeah, since we had the brain trust in the room and
Yeah.
Mr. McFadden has brought that up.
But it's a good question because it relates to this. If you're going to make an application to the state for new money, one of the things they're going to look and see, well, did you spend the old money? We spent the first years, but we haven't spent the second years. So I'm not sure where we are in terms of in line, but there's nothing wrong with applying for something, even though we never thought we'd get the second years.
Right.
So, you put together the best application you can, you get it in there. If you don't get it, you don't commit hara-kiri. You think through the project. We now have these two projects, whether we can do them in '24, or you plan it so that you can do it in '25, if you're ready to go. The best projects is the ones you have plans on the shelf, ready to go. So you try it. I would say, you apply for one or the other, whatever you decide, and if you don't get it, we plan again in '25, either with our own money or with supplement state money.
And I will say that the craziness of construction costs has really leveled. Material costs have generally leveled. We were seeing prices that were 20–30% increases over a 1 or 2 year period. It was unlike anything we've ever seen. We have seen that level out. The surfacing cost is one of those. The number that we had plugged in and actually added money to was actually assisted based
mentioned something about doing the paving with another paving contract that we had, right?
And that is one of the costs to be able
That's for the
That's-
walkways
that's
and
with
so
the
on, not for
walkway
the
and
actual,
That's at Baker.
I know, but wouldn't it, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
for the walkways.
Yeah.
yeah.
but not for the surfacing, the basketball court
Oh, yeah,
surfacing
then
is
no,
special.
I
It
thought
says-
we asked that a while ago anyway.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Well, but that's the primary thing that we have the grant for. So
Right.
one of the possibilities, can we use the grant money to do everything except for surfacing the basketball court? We'll
I
have to
see.
discuss that.
Yeah,
We'll have that discussion.
okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Scott.
All right, we are, let's see, meeting is now open to the public for any comments or questions. This is session number 1. If you have any comments or questions, you could approach the podium, just give your name and address for the
Unless you want to
record.
listen, in case they make any comments in the back.
Anyone, public comments or questions? Going once, going twice. We'll have another session later on as well. All right, comments and reports. We'll start with our professionals. Mr. Fox?
Hey, thank you, Mayor. I have quite a few things to go over. To bring you up to date on the crossings, the light at Sterling, the entrance at Sterling, has been energized and it's lit. They just finished that today. So there was some talk of putting a solar light in there. That is obviously off the table, and the light is in, and it's functioning right now. I haven't looked at the lighting patterns of it yet. They just went in today, but I will check that. They also have been out there doing more concrete repairs, as requested from our office. The concrete has been excavated, all of it today, and they're going to be pouring all of it tomorrow. That starts their schedule as of now. So once they have that concrete poured, we're narrowing things down, and we're getting close to coming up with this, a final tweaked punch list and looking at acceptance on our end. Now, we still have the issue of the basins with the plantings on Scott's end and the landscaping. So, but work is continuing on.
I saw there was some emails about, I guess when they were putting that light in, they were closing other damages or whatnot. Did you look at that at all?
I didn't see those emails. They had to bore under the roadway to get the conduit in. And then when they, or maybe that one, the corner house, is that where?
Yeah, I think that you had sent that email, right? It's good now? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. Yeah, I think that was going to the transformer on that lot.
Yeah, exactly. They took out the sidewalk and some of the
Okay.
driveway, and they'll be repointing that tomorrow.
All right, great.
Yeah. The 2023 road program, we're still waiting to do punch list work when the weather gets better. But the only major issue we have at this point is that, not really major, but there's some bonding on Union and Third, at the handicap ramp. So they are gonna have to address that. That'll be punch list item when the weather is favorable.
That contractor left a lot of debris all around that work area. They were a mess.
It was a very difficult contractor.
Earl?
Yeah. The Zoorbrook seawall, as I believe everyone knows, we did get approval from DEP for that project. In my report, I have a schedule. I can go over that, but so you have it in writing, you can refer to it later on. It's in my report. The main issue is that no work can be done on the bulkhead itself, on the seawall itself, between March 1st and June 30th, and then not again from September 1st to November 30th. And that is because of the sturgeon spawning season. The sturgeon swim up the river in the spring, they spawn, and a little sturgeon to come out in the fall. We're not allowed to do any grading work or any work waterward of the wall during that time period. So with that, we have it in a schedule. We're working to finalize the plans and specs now, the actual construction plans and specs. I'd like to meet with Richard and John, and I assume Mr. Templeton can even, he's been spearheading this project, and anyone else that wants to sit on that meeting to go over our plans so we're on the same page. Then I would make a presentation to the whole committee, add that on the 4th, March 4th. So everybody can see what we're putting out to bid.
Want to pick a day now? You said the week of the 26th, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, the Tuesday, Richard, you're Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, right?
Yeah.
And Tuesday, we've got budget stuff in the afternoon. I've got a conflict in the morning, if possible Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, I'm free either one of those days. We can,
Mr. Schwab?
I don't have my, I didn't bring my.
Yeah.
schedule.
yeah,
Take a look.
I'll confirm with
We'll firm it up.
everybody. Yep,
Yeah,
confirm
Wednesday,
it up.
Thursday.
But that sometime that week, we'll get together.
Great.
And with that, we would then advertise on March 7th, that's the plan. We can receive bids. We're going to give about 2 months for the contractors to bid on it, about 7 weeks. And we can receive the bids on the 1st, May 1st. We can award it in that following meeting on the 6th. And construction can't start until July 1st. And they only have 2 months. They have the month of July and the month of August. So why I'd like to award the contract so early, so we get all the paperwork out of the way, the contractor can order his materials, he can be sitting there ready to go in March 1st, start working on the actual hard construction.
Yeah, that was my main
July.
concern, if they could get the materials in time. July 1st.
July 1st.
July 1st.
July
July
1st.
1st. Did I say
March.
July 1st? Yeah, I'm sorry.
You're anxious.
Did you want to award that bid?
We would like to award on the 6th. May 6th. So with that, we should have that gives 2 months of actual working time putting in the seawall itself. I don't see a problem with that happening. They can, after that, work behind it, doing all the finishing touches and things like that. They just can't do anything that creates any vibration or noises or that can disrupt the sturgeon. At worst case, if things aren't done, they can come back in November, and then they have all winter to tweak out anything that needs to be done. So that's our schedule. We should be having, and actually I have final construction completed by September 15th, which is my birthday. So
Give me your present.
that's gonna be my birthday present.
How many years in the making has this been going on now?
6,161 days since first contact with DEP.
Harry, do you want to talk about how you're going to meet the conditions of the historic people with the photographs?
Yes, as a condition of the approval, we have to address the historic nature of the property. The DEP and SHPO, the Historic Preservation Office, wants the empty lot considered historic as well as the mansion. It already is labeled as historic. What that does is we have to do basically documentation of what's out there. And photographs, reports, sketches, and all that information gets archived. So in case somebody in the future wants to go research the property and see what historic significance was there, all the information is there. We do have someone in our office that's qualified, to be certified by the state. I did talk to them, and they're kind of overwhelmed with work at the moment, so I am going to get a price from Hunter Research to do that work. But that's contingent upon, we can't start construction until we get that work done. But we can do all the rest of it. We can go out to bids and all that kind of work. But we can't put shovel in the ground until that has been submitted to SHPO. Any questions on the seawall?
Happy to see it moving.
Yeah, we're getting there. The Newton's Landing and River's Edge traffic striping, we're not real happy with how Newton's Landing turned out. River's Edge striping is better quality, but it kind of got messed up on locations. So I actually went out there myself this time and marked what we want done. So there's about 500 feet of yellow line that's out there now that will be removed. And the chief suggested, and I agree, rather than painting black paint over it, we're gonna hydroblast it, so the paint comes off of the road. Otherwise, the black paint starts wearing off and it starts a little bit yellow, and there could be issues with enforcement.
Who's paying for that?
Well, I'm talking to the contractor now. There's some of it he is responsible for. Some of it we changed. I can send you all a plan. I actually took another section of yellow paint that was there originally, and I'm recommending removing it. We can get another three parking spaces. So that wasn't the contractor's fault. And there was an issue where the mailboxes were located, where there used to be yellow paint, but they reversed the mailboxes, and that was not supposed to be repainted, but there was yellow there anyway that we'd have to obliterate. So it's kind of a mixture of, it was just a kind of mix up with contractor, what was going on, what was actually out there before, and what we want now. So I'm dealing with the contractor to see what we can work out.
Okay.
Harry, did you get my email regarding what the county was going to do at Newton's Landing? And was that the area that you hadn't done yet? And would that help some of the entrance and exit?
No, they're not coming down into Newton's Landing itself, it's just on the intersection.
Right, just on,
So
okay.
that won't help us.
Okay.
With the Newton's Landing end of it, the contractor's responsible for 100%. There's no question about that. That's just poor workmanship on that section. So once I get everything worked out with them, we can inform everyone with what's happening with it and we can move on. The lead safe inspections, just so everyone knows, because you may be getting phone calls from landlords and whatnot. As I believe you all know, that the state passed a law that any rental properties have to be inspected for lead-based paint. And as part of that law, it required municipalities to provide that service if the landlord didn't want to do it themselves. So the landlord has an opportunity to hire their own people to do it, but we have to offer the service to landlords in case they say, I want you to do it.
Is it all rental properties or built before 78?
70.
Correct. Anything after or before 78, correct. Thank you. And there's some other exemptions on larger units. If they're already state certified, they don't have to do it. If it's a bed and breakfast type thing that they only rent out for less than 6 months at a time, they're exempt. There's certain exemptions there, but generally it's rental units. And we did, working with the office with Janice, Bev, and Jess, we sent out a notice, and I believe it went out today, to the landlords, explaining to them the process and a copy of the ordinance. If you recall, we passed an ordinance on this. So we gave the copy of the ordinance. I expect there's going to be a lot of questions. I also expect that the landlords are going to wait till the last minute because they have until July 24th to comply. But that's the process. So, and what it's for is, it's looking for unsafe. So it's not that it has to be lead-free. Like these units that are rental units, they can have lead in there, but the lead paint's in good condition, it's okay. So it's actually going to assessment, a safety assessment. And then if we go out there, they have their own people out there certify it, and find that there's chipping paint, there's dust, particularly on windows, that there's friction points that there could be lead dust come off of, things like that. we would then notify the landlord what they have to do to fix it. They have to fix it, and we come back out and recertify. The certification gets sent to the state, and it's all logged at the state. And it's a $1,000 fine if they don't comply, and the township will be fined as well. So that's in the process, and if you hear anything, feel free to give me a call if you have any questions, or email. That's moving on. The last thing I have is the stormwater flooding issues we've been having, everyone's been having. I did briefly look at Robbins Lane area. And what we actually had, and a lot of numbers get thrown around out in the public and in the news and whatnot of elevations. And the Burlington Bristol Bridge is one that has been thrown out there. It was 11.99.
Right.
That's not 11.99 feet above sea level. That's 11.99 feet above a reference point, which is a negative 3.33 feet. So what it comes down to is the actual elevation above sea level is 8.66 is what the water level was at the Burlington Bristol Bridge. The Burlington Bristol Bridge, that's a NOAA station. There's a USGS station on the Lake Eckers Creek at the Route 130 bridge. Now that station, when you do the conversions, that came out to 8.01 feet above sea level. So Delanco was somewhere in the 8-foot area, 7.5 to 8 feet on the river line, feet above sea level, where the water went to. Now, I've seen several pictures from several of you sent me pictures, and I wasn't out there to see the highest it was, and I don't know the pictures were the highest it was, but it all kind of matches. The house on Robbins Lane is an elevation about 7 to 7.5 at the foundation.
Right.
Right.
So it kind of makes sense, because I saw pictures where it went up onto the foundation a little bit, so it looks like it would probably hit about a little bit less than an 8 in Delanco, on the riverfront. There's really nothing you do. The berm along the river at that location is at a 6.3. So without building a levee along the whole river, you're not stopping the flooding in the floodplain. The ditch that was installed sometime before my time, or redone before my time, out there, was installed with gabion baskets. They're rocks with wire, the porous. And that's what I assume the designer intended them to be porous, because he could have grouted them, he could have put other things in. And it's a smaller pipe outletting through that stone, through the stone gabions, than is coming in. So I'm certainly assuming that he was, that they were intending that the gabion baskets would let water flow through it to give you outlet. And I'm guessing that the swale was built for this actual stormwater storage for smaller storms, because the pipes are undersized. And that's a low area for that section of town. So it was really kind of designed to handle the everyday smaller storms. So you don't have the nuisance storms. A flood like we had, nothing you can do is going to stop that. So that's kind of where we stand. And I looked at, it's interesting because the inlets on 2nd Street are about an elevation, where the storm drains, are about an elevation 8 to 8.1. So everything was like right there. And what would actually happen is it would start bubbling out of the inlets, which it may have. I didn't see. Did it bubble out?
It was bubbling out of the inlet right just before you get to the ditch in Robbins Lane.
Yeah, that would come out of there. That's the
Yeah.
lowest. And then in front of Mr. Fining's house,
Yeah.
that one there would have been the next one that bubbled out, and then up towards the other one further north. So if we had a little bit bigger storm than what we actually had, it would have actually bubbled out of the inlets in the streets and flooded the streets. The only way to stop that is, as we all know, we're all pretty familiar with it now, are our check valves, our duct bills or some type of check valve.
Well, that one actually has one on it.
And it's not working
Yeah,
right.
it seems it's letting water through.
Yeah, what that purpose is, and that wasn't to stop water, because we're not stopping water coming in because the Gavian baskets are porous. That was actually put in to stop debris from running in the pipe.
But the water's not getting over the baskets. There's a concrete wall there and the water's coming right through that inlet.
And that wall seems to have a little crack in it because you can see water flowing right through the
Yeah.
wall.
Oh, it'll come through the wall, it'll come through the stone, it'll come through all that.
Yeah.
That hydraulic head is gonna push through it.
So the
But-
way that's designed is it's really preventing local flooding from heavy rain coming down, like, that stormwater pipe comes down from Burlington Avenue. And so if you had a solid wall there, that would trap all that water and retain it and flood those properties on either side of it, correct?
As it stands now, yes.
Yes.
A larger pipe would have to be put in, and to fix it, larger pipe. Is the duckbill got something stuck in it that's holding it open?
It was, I don't know, you
looked
can't
kinda
see, it's only this
closed.
much of an inlet,
It's
letting
not-
water
it's
out
not-
this big.
It's not closed.
Okay.
I went down and I looked at it. You got to understand that the amount of flooding that was going on down there.
Right.
It's not, nothing's going to stop it.
Oh, no,
Nothing.
Yeah,
that was
right.
clear over the property.
Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely,
100%.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But even
yeah.
You could have seen
couple-
that property years ago when we had two underground pipes that went from the river all the way up to that first storm drain there. Okay? There was two pipes in there. They were so packed with debris from coming up the river and being in there year after year after year. Birdsall decided to turn it, dig it out and put a little swale in there. And then put the baskets in there. And that seemed to help, but I mean, the river is getting filled up with silt. Okay? And when we realize that you're not digging the river out and cleaning all the stuff inside of that, what's going to happen? It's going to be like filling a half bowl. And it's going to continue. And I'm telling you, we have a lot of streams like that in town.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is not the only one up at the halfway house. That's the first time I seen that come up over that sidewalk.
Yeah.
I've seen it one time before.
Right.
And that stream there was a beautiful stream years ago. I mean, the fish and the wildlife in there, look at it now. It's so mucky and there's so much crap in there. It's all silt from people's streets, all the stuff that gets blown into it. And just, where's it gonna go?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. But I guess maybe we should look at that duckbill at the end there. I took a couple videos of it if you want to see it.
Yeah, and again, that was put on for maintenance purposes to stop the silt and debris from coming up and clogging up the steps. That was not,
Yeah.
Not for the water, just for the.
not for the water,
Crap.
because
Right.
it's already got a porous
Yeah.
wall there. That really, that would just slow things down, because things would just
Yeah.
go slower through the rocks than it would through the pipe, but it's not,
Act as a filter too.
that's basically what it's doing.
Yeah.
That's what it was there for, actually.
And then the properties next door, they don't even have any kind of seawall, and they're lower than the actual berms that we built, those rock berms. Those properties are lower.
Yeah.
So they fill up first.
Yes, and we did, was that last year, 2 years ago, we put a little berm, that's that little berm you can see on the right-hand side, looking towards the river, just to stop the smaller storms from overflowing that ditch going into that yard.
Right.
But again, that's just for your normal storms, your maybe up to a 25-year storm. Anything above that, it's gonna flood.
Right.
I didn't personally witness our berm flooding that. It was the river that flooded the backyard first. That berm was not overflowing into that yard.
It wouldn't, by the elevations,
Right.
you're right, I agree, it was the river coming over first.
So is there any way that, I think maybe the residents do need a seawall or something to help protect them? Would that help them, or can
Definitely
we
would help them.
build ours up higher to even, no,
It wouldn't matter, it would just come right up their yards.
it's still gonna come over, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes, you're right, they would need a higher seawall or,
They should have a higher seawall
One
there.
to start with, they don't even have a seawall. It's just,
Right.
yeah, they have nothing.
It's just concrete.
Even if they
Right.
burned it up themselves, I can't say that, but
Yeah,
Right.
right,
We didn't hear that strike.
Yeah, I didn't,
yeah.
but yes, it would,
Some creative landscaping.
some landscape, yes, might help.
Right,
Yeah, don't call it a seawall.
And the other
not a secret.
area that we had a lot of
We
flooding
should have
on,
called ours creative landscaping all these years.
the other area we had a lot of flooding on was down at the end of Delaware Avenue, between Cedar and Willow, by the little houses up there. That's a very low point. The water clearly went over, but also even at times now when it's not that high, when it's not a crazy storm, the water is still very slow getting out of those drains. If you could look at those drains, they appear very clogged inside with leaves and other
we
muck.
discussed that.
Okay.
Yes, they are clogged.
That's just a little drain about this big.
Oh, yeah, no, we saw
Yeah,
it.
it's about a
I guess
12-inch
they
pipe
couldn't put it
outside.
in because
Yeah, it
it's
might
the
be an
low-
8,
one of the
yeah.
lowest
When I
parts of
measure, it's
town.
12, yeah.
Oh, so you measured, okay.
Yeah, it's 12, and you can see all the rock and stuff that went up
Yeah.
inside. I don't know if that might benefit from some sort of
Yeah.
duckbill.
That would, as well as
Wasn't it,
cleaning it up.
Karen?
We tried to
It was
TV it,
Hickory Field.
and we couldn't even get the camera down there, so, yeah, that would need to be cleaned out, and I agree with 100%, a check valve on there would be warranted, as well as when we do our seawall,
The one out there.
there's, actually, Zubik Mansion has a sump pump that pumps out there that we're gonna connect to go out, and there's gonna be 3 to 4 drain lines coming through that we're gonna put check valves on as well.
Okay.
So the water can only flow one way. That's
The
the
property's a lot higher
that's-
too.
what we can do, and
Mother Nature.
Well,
it is.
the sea level rise is following the predictions from the last couple decades. And so the state is looking at sea level rise, what, 1.5 to 2 feet, depending on what the high range or low range, but it's, what we experienced in the last couple of weeks is not gonna get better. I mean, it's gonna be over the bridge, it's gonna be over the roadways. and,
Yes,
We need to harden our homes. If you've got utilities in the basement and you're changing something out, put it up on cinder blocks, basic things like that to start with. But,
Yeah,
That's what
There's a lot of resources on the township website for flood protection, FEMA information, so a lot of resources there on much lower cost things to make your house defensible against floods.
yeah. Yeah, it was the high, I've been in my house for 36 years, and it's the highest I've ever seen it. The water level.
And you're right in the creek also, right?
I'm right on, by the Route 130 bridge, yeah.
Yeah, he's on the creek too.
Yeah, I was surprised. It was 7 inches higher than it was in Sandy, in my yard.
Wow.
Did you get water in your basement, Harry?
No, I'm lucky enough that it came up to, I have a back deck with steps, and it covered the first step.
Yeah,
Didn't-
mine
didn't
went up
get
in
to
my
that.
yard too, but it didn't go down or it didn't, yeah.
Yeah, probably another 8 or 10 inches, it would have hit my house, but it wouldn't have went in. A freeboard on there.
Harry, is it true, I think in the Delran meeting they had the other day about the flooding, that the Army Corps doesn't permit them to pump the floodwater back into the creek? When the creek overflows into Delran, they weren't allowed to do anything about discharging that water back in?
Oh, I never heard of that.
I could see while there was the sewer line break, they wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, they did
Yeah.
have a
But
sewer line
once-
break in Delran.
If it wasn't a sewer line break, I don't, that's news to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
I'll talk to you about it afterwards.
Anything else, Harry?
That's all I have.
All right. Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Fox? All right. Thank you, Harry. Doug, we didn't forget about you.
Yeah, appreciate that.
You got equal time.
I am only going to report on something that's later on your agenda, and it's really for the benefit of the public and an ongoing discussion we've had up here about the industrial zoning and our rezoning of a number of properties to the I-3 district. Last summer, we undertook that rezoning, and in September, essentially what amounts to 2 entities fought a lawsuit against the township challenging the zoning. As we talked about a couple of times, we sat down with them to figure out what their concerns were. Our concerns were proliferation of additional warehouses in the municipality and the impact that that was having on the township. So when we sat down with them, we were able to sort of come to an understanding of protecting the concerns or interests they had without frustrating what we were trying to accomplish. The result of that are these settlement agreements that are on the agenda tonight. It's a settlement. Just like anything else, it's not perfect. It's not everything that would apply to the I-3 zone properties, but it does prevent the warehousing and kind of warehousing that we were endeavoring to protect against in the first place. The uses that are being proposed should not create the same concerns in terms of increased impacts and truck traffic impacts that warehouse of that size or scope would have if developed further in town. So it's, again, achieving what we were setting out to accomplish, working with the business community to make sure that we were listening to what their concerns were and resolving them as appropriate. So I am happy with where this came out. I will also say that Scott Taylor, the township planner who was here earlier, has spent considerable amount of time on this issue as well, just looking at it from a planning perspective and trying to, make sure we're accomplishing what we intended to accomplish and are not frustrating that original goal. And so those are on for action tonight. We will continue to work on those issues as they are presented, but that would resolve the litigation. And the large-scale benefit of that is that the I-3 overall would remain in place. And again, the underlying goal of what the township was trying to prevent, which is sort of substantial warehouse development in the accompanying truck traffic that goes with that, from further becoming essentially the dominant use in the entire industrial zones.
Mr. Arnold, can you just talk a little bit, and I'm not going to say a whole lot because I don't want to trip over myself, but just that there's a couple timelines or a couple requirements that this will reappear both here and at the planning board, and
Yeah.
that doesn't necessarily mean that something broke down, but this is part of a normal process to
Yeah.
execute this.
So in terms of real-world impacts, what we anticipate out of the settlement process is that 401 Creek Road, which had a couple of development proposal iterations on it previously, one for a, what I'll call an aggressive fleet maintenance yard, and then a warehouse, and now a significantly scaled down fleet maintenance yard. The intent of the settlement is to allow what they originally proposed for the site, but at a significantly reduced footprint that will allow for substantial buffers around that property and protect the adjacent property owners and provide a secluded location for them to carry out that type of use. That's really the only anticipated visual change that the municipality is likely to see for years. The other properties across from that at 450 and 500 are likely to stay pretty much as they are right now, although we understand that Vroom is, if not bankrupt, essentially scaling down to a significant amount where their used car operations won't be operating anymore. And then the other piece of property is the Farrow Point property. Stylex occupies that. Stylex was recently acquired by a company called Flock, but they're a furniture manufacturing company, and the anticipation is that that name and use will continue as Stylex at that site for another 4 or 5 years at a minimum. Farrow Point has said that they would love to keep that tenant even beyond that, but that's the anticipation with that. This will result in further action at our level. This will result in further action at the planning board level, both in referral of planning documents and in referral of actual land use application by the 401 Creek property, which is a company called Criterion. I've found the corporate entities to be reasonable and, understanding what the township's concerns were, fairly expressing what their concerns were, and then working with us to try and come to some mutual ground that doesn't leave them hanging out to dry and doesn't frustrate what we were trying to do in the first place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Doug?
That's all tonight.
All right, thank you very much. Let's go to Mr. Schwab, our Township Administrator.
Okay, thank you. Of course, the ongoing budget planning, we have a meeting, our next meeting is the 26th of February, and after the regular agenda for that meeting, there'll be a work session, and I'll be inviting the representatives from the various organizations that are funded by the budget. Then in the afternoon of Tuesday, the 27th, we have a work session with our auditor, who will have completed the annual financial statement, and we'll be able to see what the impact is of all the requests on actual tax rates and operations, and we'll look at capital items. You have in your agenda a number of things that, one is the cybersecurity grant. There's a minor change, save us a couple dollars that Bev and Janice put on your dais. We also have in this consent agenda the first reading of ordinance for the purchase of a street sweeper, where the state stormwater management plan requires that we do what we like to do also, which is sweep our streets more often, keep debris out of the waters so they don't get silted up, as Mr. Fenimore explained. The purpose is to buy the sweeper. We are negotiating with our neighbors for a shared service agreement for them to be paying part of the cost to get use. But we have to take step one, which is fund the sweeper. We have the down payment money was funded in last year's budget, so this is to make the next step. For purchasing, you'll see a temporary capital budget also, which covers that. As a follow-up to what Harry talked about with the seawall, based on the fact we're ready to go and we have a timetable, you'll see at your next, in the month of March, there'll be a similar capital ordinance for supplemental funding for the seawall based on the last estimate that he gave us last year. We funded the down payment, but we didn't do the ordinance until we knew we actually had a project to go ahead with. So now we're ready to go. You'll see that coming up. The other things I sent you, we got today, the county history grant was approved, second year in a row that our history board has successfully gotten a county grant, and so we'll be moving forward on that. It'll be either included as a in our budget, or there'll be a separate resolution to amend the temporary budget if we want to move faster than the regular budget allows. So those are the things we're working on right now.
Thank you, Richard. Let's go to the department heads. Chief Tilger.
Good evening, thank you, Mayor. My report's fairly short. I'll start off with January's statistics from the police department. Initiated 17 police cases. There were 111 motor vehicle stops conducted. There were 49 motor vehicle violations issued. They handled 807 calls for service. They handled 6 motor vehicle accidents. They made 5 adult arrests and 5 contempt arrests. I presented the budget to the Township Committee since our last meeting. Recruit Orff is progressing through the Atlanta County Police Academy, and he's on pace to graduate in April. They're more than halfway done. Recruit Kearns is scheduled to begin the Gloucester County Police Academy next Monday. And this past Friday, we had our vehicles calibrated for the first time of the year. They do that 2 times a year. And that's all I have to report tonight.
Thank you, Chief. Mike?
Chief, are you happy with the renovation of your side of the building?
What is it?
Are you happy with the
Yeah, we
renovation,
are.
with the results?
We are. I anticipate hearing from State Department of Corrections probably in the next 2 months, 2.5 months. And at that point, I think we'll successfully have, done ourselves a favor with what we did with the renovations to avoid the headache that we've been facing for many years since we moved into this building.
Never easy. Never easy.
No, a lot of work.
Hopefully, the Department
Yeah.
of Corrections is just as happy.
We've been in communication, and they seem to be. It's just the final check-off is
Good.
what was needed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything for the chief? All right, let's go over to Mr. Fenimore.
Good evening. We picked up 24 cubic yards of brush from related storm and Christmas tree pickup. We cleaned up Gateway Park and the end of Rancocas and Pennsylvania. There was a lot of debris around there. We cleaned up the boat ramp. The boat ramp took 14 loads of debris with the loader. Fortunately, we had a dumpster out back that we utilized. So that helped. We cleaned up the Babe Ruth field. We also did some cleaning up on Delaware Avenue from Cedar and Willow that the tide came up. That's a real low point there. We started turning the leaves, and boy, they are really wet. That's all I can say, which is good. We're going to start cleaning up the West Avenue field and the firehouse. And then we started inspecting the storm drains. We found one of the storm drains down at Oakford in Delaware. The bricks are falling in, so I'm going to have the county road department, they're going to bring somebody in and take care of it for us. And we finally cleaned up for Pete, the historical boy up there on Poplar Street, and we edged and raked it all up and kind of made it, dressed it up nice and cleaned it up for him, so.
Looks nice.
Looks very good.
Hopefully that'll be done,
Yeah, looks nice.
and that's it.
John, that was 14 dump trucks at,
No, 14 loads with the loader.
oh, with the loader, okay, and that was at
We
the
we
boat
did-
ramp
it
on
was-
Delaware
it
Ave?
was- It was the debris. What I did is I pulled out all the trash from the debris. And then what do you do with that debris? The big stuff we had to take out, cut up, and I made 3 loads just with the big debris that we made. We put that in the dumpster, and then I called the county and I said, look, I got all this wood debris, what am I supposed to do with it? I said, it's got a lot of trash in it, and so he said, just put it in the dumpster and bring it, to the dump, so that's what we did.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fenimore. Mrs. Lahr?
Actually, I'm going to turn my report over to Harry and Bev. They attended the last Community Development Block Grant required meeting, and it was Delanco's turn to have their spotlight presentation. So I'll let them give their report on that CDGB meeting.
Yeah,
Harry and I attended the CDBG meeting on January 11th via Zoom, and Harry gave a wonderful presentation discussing our plans going forward with the handicap accessible ramps at all the streets. Talked about the project that we have underway now that we'll be doing in the spring. And we were the first to get our 2024 application in.
yes.
We were very happy about that.
They were very happy about that, yes.
Talked about that we've identified 160 areas in need of ramps, replacements, or repairs. And we applied again this year for 37 of the worst case scenarios. And last year, the amount of money that we got, we will be able to do 10 ramps, and that's using $50,000 from the CDBG and $6,000 that was not covered by the grant. Couple of changes going forward. The HUD is really
Yeah, deadline is still September for this, for the future project. And we are ahead of schedule. We're in front of everyone else. So they're very happy about that. But they're very concerned because it's HUD money, and HUD audits the county. And HUD makes all the rules that the county has to follow, basically. So HUD is shortening the timeline that we have to spend the money after they give us the grant. So the process through Richard, how we're starting our design before we get the grant, works very well because we're much more timely with it. So we should be fine going in the future, but some other towns are going to be in trouble because they're not getting things done. So we're all set. We're good to go.
Yeah, good job on that.
Good job,
guys.
Harry.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
She keeps me on my toes, trust me.
She keeps us all on our toes.
I have a question for John. Gateway Park, the lights aren't working at the gazebo, and apparently that breaker keeps, yeah, it needs to be replaced. It's not very good, and it could be a problem, so
Okay.
could you call
Yep.
Chuck about that? Maybe he
Yep.
can do something there?
I know Phil was involved in that too, with the electrician, right? You were dealing?
We're waiting for the electrician to get free time to get back out there.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
Because he also has to add 2 additional outlets to where the pump station, sprinkler system station.
Oh, okay. I did notice there was a water bill for Gateway Park, and I was wondering why, if we had the water turned off.
I think there's always a minimum
Yeah, it's a
bill
minimum.
each month.
Is
You
that
were
what it
there.
was?
Yep, it's a minimum.
We even get
'cause
a,
the bill's not usually much more than that anyway.
yeah, for Field of Dreams, we get, if there's 0 usage, we get, I think it's $180 a month. It's, American Water bases it on the size of the main that goes in there,
Oh, okay.
and the size
I
of
just
the
thought it
meter.
was strange, because I don't remember seeing
Yeah.
that in the winter before.
And I did mention to Phil, talk to the plumber out there, because I was looking at the bill and it showed we had about 2,000 gallons of usage actually of water at Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
Between December 22nd and January 22nd, and unless we got a leak out there, we shouldn't be using any water. So I mentioned that to Phil, he's gonna talk to the plumber about that.
Wasn't there something with the electric?
We had that problem a couple of years ago.
Yeah, the electric
Like a
too.
And we
$500
did find a
electric
leak.
bill. Okay.
Yeah, I think that we didn't see anything on this month, so
Okay.
I guess that was whatever was left over.
I thought it was 300 and something this month.
I know it was high.
Yeah, I think I wrote it down. I thought it was 300 and something this month. Anyway, we should look
Yeah,
into
well,
it.
Yeah.
there's now a separate bill for towards the, well, there's 2 separate bills. It's not just the bill for the
Bills
building.
at FOD, yeah.
There's
I was
another
just-
FOD that has nothing to do with the building, it has to do with the irrigation system,
Yeah,
Okay,
All right.
which is the same kind of minimum.
got you.
all right.
Was there anything else that you had on your report, Bev or Janice?
That's all I had, thank you.
Okay. All righty. Consent agenda items. Consent agenda items are continued to be, considered to be routine and will be enacted with a single motion. Any item requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda. All consent agenda items will be reflected in full in the minutes. Is there anything anyone would like removed from the consent agenda?
I'd like to have resolutions 41 and 42 treated separately, just if any committee members would like to make a comment on that during a separate vote on those 2 items.
Sure.
And also resolutions 43 and 44, separate consideration or discussion.
All right, so 41 through 44.
Correct. Thank you.
Vern or Kate or Carolyn?
Nope.
Good.
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Ordinance 2024-2, a bond ordinance of the Township of Delanco in the County of Burlington, authorizing the acquisition of vehicles and equipment, appropriating the sum of $300,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $285,000 bonds or notes of the township for financing such appropriations and making certain determinations and covenants and authorizing certain related actions in connection with the foregoing. First reading by title only and set public hearing date for February 26, 2024 at 7 p.m. Ordinance 2024-3, amending Chapter 295 governing vehicles and parking. First reading by title only and set public hearing date for February 26, 2024 at 7 p.m. Resolution 2024-37, the 2024 temporary capital budget. Resolution 2024-38, award of bid and contract for Field of Dreams turf maintenance. Resolution 2024-39, refunding street opening permit to New Jersey American Water for various street openings for a water main installation and replacement project. Resolution 2024-40, fiscal year 2023 state and local cybersecurity grant program, SLCGB. Payment of bills. Current fund, $1,377,453.85. Payroll, $129,482.93. Capital fund, $13,200. Dog trust, $90. Escrow trust, $7,456.25. Housing trust, $34. Approval of minutes from November 13th, December 4th, and December 18th, 2023. Can we have a motion to approve those consent agenda items?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Seuss, second by Ms. Fitzpatrick. Have a roll call, please, Janice?
Ms. Fitzpatrick?
Yes.
Mr. Olet?
Yes.
Ms. Seuss?
Yes.
Mr. Templeton?
Yes.
Mr. Bartlett?
Yes. All right, we'll go back through those items that were pulled. Resolution 2024-41, resolution authorizing and directing
gotta
the
do the next page.
execution of, I'm sorry, did you have something, Richard?
Top of the next page, you gotta do the minutes.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
yeah,
we're-
we
he's
missed
going
one.
back to the other one.
No, okay, before you do that. Okay.
Yeah. You're
All
good.
right, we're good? All right.
Yeah, you're good.
Resolution 2024-41, resolution authorizing and directing the execution of settlement agreement to resolve 401 Creek Road Industrial LLC et al. Versus Township as to properties at 401, 450, and 500 Creek Road.
So move. Are we voting on it? Is that what you want? Or, I mean, I think Doug gave an excellent, explanation of what we're doing. This is the resolution authorizing the settlement agreement for Matt to sign. So I would move, yes, that we go ahead and accept this.
Mr. Templeton, was it just your desire to make a comment at the time of your vote?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Could I make a suggestion that we just do both together then? Is that
What?
okay?
Yeah.
That's,
Sure.
that fits the bill, yes, thank you.
And so we'll also do with this vote 2024-42, resolution authorizing and directing the execution of settlement agreement to resolve 401 Creek Road Industrial LLC et al. Versus Township as to the property at 740 Coopertown Road. Motion?
Yes, and I will make that motion, and I think that the township, I know Carolyn and I worked on this ordinance initially to stop warehousing in Delanco, and for just having two of the businesses come forward to object to our ordinance was pretty good when you think of all the businesses that were involved, and this negotiation actually worked out pretty good for both parties, so I'm very happy with the settlement that we came to.
I'll second the motion to approve resolution 41 and 42.
All right, motion by Ms. Fitzpatrick, second by Ms. Seuss. Can we have a roll call, please, Janice?
Ms. Fitzpatrick?
Yes.
Mr. Olet?
Yes.
Ms. Seuss?
Yes.
Mr. Templeton?
Yes, and I do appreciate Mr. Heinhold's extensive description and elaboration on this, the contents of these two agreements. I'm hopeful that it will do everything it's advertised as and what the township and what Mr. Heinhold has worked towards. But like a lot of things in this area that the township deals with, there's often not the perfect solution or a great solution, but a less onerous destiny or future. So I vote yes on this and hope for a good future for these properties. Thank you.
Okay.
That was for Resolution 2024-41 and Resolution 2024-42. 5 committee members voting in the affirmative. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. All right, Resolution 2024-43, resolution of the Township of Delanco authorizing the live streaming of audio and video of township committee meetings. Any objection to putting these two together, or?
No, I just,
Let me just read the second one then.
did I, on 43, I'm not sure, did I miss a meeting or this discussion on that we were going to be doing this as a committee?
I think we've done that over the last couple meetings, and we've discussed streaming meetings over the last 2 years.